Welcome to the Fantasy Football Profit Podcast, hosted by Craig Phillips and Jeff Torrey. Visit us at fantasyfootballprofit.com. And now your hosts, Craig and Jeff.
Welcome everyone to the Fantasy Football Profit Podcast. I'm Craig Phillips, joined as always by Jeff Torrey, and it's late Sunday night, so we're doing a Week 13 review here. All but, Chargers, Pittsburgh still going, then we got Washington, Philly tomorrow night, but other than that, the regular season of fantasy football is over. So if you're still listening, probably got yourself in the playoffs, because I know if I didn't make the playoffs, I'm turning off fantasy football podcast, I think, at this point, Jeff. But we're both in a good spot, so hey, it's still good to talk about this stuff. So how are you feeling before we can get to the game? How are you feeling going into next week? Got some big matchups next week.
I'm a little worried. It is that time of year where, anytime, your players aren't performing to their ability, you get a little bit cautious, a little bit strange times for me. A lot of injuries going down, so it'll be very interesting to see who comes out and who can play next week. I have AJ Green, Gordon, Olsen, so it has not been a great week for me.
Yeah, Green came back and then is now gone again. It looks like at this point, after a player like that comes back, gets hurt again, I don't think we're going to see him again this year.
Yeah, I don't think so, which is a huge problem.
I mean, because what do the Bengals have? What reason do they have to play him? They have no reason at this point.
Yeah, no.
So that is a little bit of a crushing blow to some people, but hopefully, like for you, Gordon's back maybe next week. We'll see. But they're doing well without him, so they don't need to rush him back, which isn't. It's just a rough time, injuries, man.
Yeah, that's the way fantasy football goes. So we'll have to figure something out.
All right, let's go. Let's just run through some of these top games. Here, we'll start with some of the running backs, and I guess it's no surprise Todd Gurley ended up being the number one running back in standard scoring right now this week. So, yeah, no surprise. Played against the Lions, which we thought he'd do well. 132 rushing, 33 receiving, two rushing touchdowns. So, just not much to talk about there. Gurley's great. It's easy. He's easy matchup against Detroit. But number 2, Phillip Lindsay, with 27.9 in standard off 157 rushing, got 2 touchdowns. This guy has been really good these last 3 weeks here. He's become a legitimate player, and Royce Freeman is a complete afterthought. It's just funny, the guy drafted early is just nothing down. The undrafted guy is clearly taking over this backfield. And if we're looking at it even for next year, I'd expect Phillip Lindsay's going to be the lead guy starting next year for them.
Yeah, you have to think so. I mean, you look at his numbers, and they've been wonderful. Every time they give him the ball, he does something with it, positive yardage. And, their confidence in him is only increasing. And as, we alluded to, we thought he might get even more of a larger workload. And it has been. The last 3 games, 11 carries, 14, and then 19, and he's taken full advantage. So I don't see why it would slow down, especially with San Fran coming up next.
Yeah, it's going to be a really good matchup there for him. Yeah, he's just going to keep going. I mean, Freeman had 12 carries, but Phillip Lindsay's clearly the better running back. And he's finally getting the carries to show, so he's going to be good here. Tyreke Cohen, 3rd now this week on standard scoring with 12 catches for 156 off 14 targets. They throw the ball at this guy all the time. I still know how he's going to do next week against the Rams. That's my worry with Tyreke Cohen. He has these big games, but can he do it next week? I don't trust a guy who relies completely on receiving.
Right, yeah, and he'll be up and down, but it was wonderful to see this performance again because, really, it feels like it's kind of been a while since we saw that big receiving game. The week before that against Detroit, he had 7 receptions, but only went for 45 yards. Really, you have to go back to almost, week 7 when he was really turning on the Jets and they were utilizing him in the past. So this is great to see, though.
And how about McCaffrey up there again?
He is on fire right now.
Every week. Just every week. He's ridiculous. Only had 10 carries, but turned it into 106 yards. 9 for 55 and a touchdown receiving. This guy's good. Then Chase Edmonds is up there because he got 2 touchdowns. Man, David Johnson owners can't be happy with this one.
Right. Yeah, we had a couple of touchdown vultures this week that changed the course of fantasy for sure. We'll get to that later on, but, in New England as well.
Well, it's pretty much just a couple spots below here. Well, James Conner is next. He's still going right now with 18.2. Saquon, another 14.6. Solid outing. He didn't get any touchdowns, so it didn't go to the huge number, but 146 total yards. Then is James Devlin from New England. 4 carries, 5 yards, 2 touchdowns.
And ouch. I mean, especially any White or Sony Michel owners hoping to get touchdowns, this is worrisome, but to what extent?
I mean, I think now they like doing this. They might use this guy a little bit. Michel's still going to get the majority of the carries, though. That was good to see if you're a Michel owner. I mean, Burkhead did come back, get 7 carries. White had 6 of them out there. I mean, Devlin, stole those touchdowns, but at least Michel still had 17 carries. If he gets that kind of work, he's still going to be able to be, very valuable. It's just he only turned it into 63 yards today. I can't see them doing the whole fullback dive thing all the time. That's not going to be able to keep work. It's not going to keep
right.
Working.
They're not always going to get it to the 1 yard line, but it does suck to think that you're going to miss out on easy points like that. And really, we've seen this a little bit more. I mean, really, this is his 3rd touchdown in 3 games, and it's only around the 1 yard line. So it might not come into play, but it's definitely something to think about.
Then, some of the next guys, Nick Chubb, didn't really do much on the ground, only 9 for 31, but gets a touchdown. Rashad Penny had 7 for 65 and a touchdown. Chris Carson left with an injury, so we'll have to see what happens there. Then after that, it's a lot of just average performances, I would say. Jeff Wilson Jr. there for San Francisco had to step up and play with Matt Breida was in and out with injury during the game, so Wilson had 61 rushing, 73 receiving for a guy that really I had never heard of.
Yeah, it kind of came out of nowhere.
I mean, he really did. Last week was the first time he had any kind of yardage and then did something. So, I mean, that's interesting to look. I don't know what's going to happen with Breida's injury, but I mean, Wilson could be somebody to throw in your lineup, I guess. Not something I'm too excited about against Denver next week, though. And then Spencer Ware got himself a touchdown. Other than that, he was definitely not Kareem Hunt. So that's for sure. He's I mean, this is what Spencer Ware was. He's going to be fine. He's going to get you. He's going to be definitely a startable player, but he's not the same kind of player. There's a reason why Kareem Hunt had become the back there and Spencer Ware was barely used.
Yeah, and how do you feel about this moving forward, right? So we're moving forward. More than likely next week is going to be your playoffs. They play Baltimore, which does have a good run defense. Where do you view Spencer Ware in the grand scheme of things right now?
I mean, he's probably a running back. He's a running back 2 for me. He'd be somewhere, I don't know the rankings wise, but somewhere between 10 and 20. So he's very usable. He's going to get volume. So because of that, he's going to be usable. But if you have Spencer Ware, chances are that you might, unless you were the Kareem Hunt guy, your owner, if you just picked him up, chances are you have better players than them that you've been using. So I might just stick with the guys I've had. They might just pass the ball more. They don't need to run it. So, yeah, he'll be there. I think he's going to be more 15 to 20 range for me.
All right.
Somewhere around there. I'm not completely sold on it at all. Then how about Aaron Jones? 11 carries, 36 yards, and a touchdown. They actually somehow, I don't know why they would have done it, but they gave Jamal Williams randomly decided to start playing again during this one. And let's see, he had 7 carries for 13 and caught 4 balls for 14, so it did nothing. So rightfully, Mike McCarthy was fired after the game because of this.
Yeah, that was a rough one. I can't believe, Cardinals pulling this off that's a low point for Green Bay.
Yep, and McCarthy needed to go. This wasn't, that's really bad. I can't believe what kind of happened there to Green Bay. How about some receivers here? We got tops on the list is Dante Pettis right now. 5 for 129, 2 touchdowns. So he's only been back for a couple games now after his injury. He had the one game before he had one game he came back before the bye in week 10. And now since the bye, 4 for 77 and a touchdown, 5 for 129 and 2 touchdowns for the rookie here. Man, I don't think this is a fluke. I don't.
No, I don't either. I don't know how he will be able to, keep this going on San Fran, but I think especially in any leagues, whether dynasty or keepers, he's definitely someone you want to throw on just to give yourself the option. But I mean, to be quite honest, I mean, it is a possibility that he might be a great guy to go get because you can use him in the, for someone who is, like me, AJ Green or another person who got an injury, because he's using him and he does have big playability. And as long as he keeps getting 4 or 5 catches, which I would assume that they're going to try to get him even more now that he's succeeded 2 weeks in a row, he is a very intriguing player.
He is. I feel comfortable putting him in a lineup if you're starting 3 receivers. I think he's a very good player. I think he's going to, be safe. I just feel like he's going to be relatively safe. I don't know why I have this feeling. Just something about it. I feel confident. This isn't like the, other players early in the year, like where Tyrell Williams had a couple big games in a row. You knew it just wasn't going to happen. I think there's something there with Dante Pettis. So I'm definitely interested in seeing how he continues to do. The next up, Antonio Brown. Game's still going on here right now, but he has 10 for 154 and a touchdown. And this is the Antonio Brown we've been waiting to see all year. First time he's really had a big game like this, but just shows that he's still really, really good.
Yeah, and the touchdown pace this guy is on, even when
it's insane.
I mean, he was ranked 4th, and we're upset about it. His touchdown. I mean, he will average possibly over a touchdown per game, which is just nuts to think about.
Yeah, it's ridiculous to think. Yeah, we were thinking he's slightly down year, but he's still this good in a down year. Then Zay Jones got himself 2 touchdown catches. So this guy's name's actually appeared a couple times now this season. Week 10, he had 8 for 93 and a touchdown, and now 4 for 67 and 2 touchdowns. And I still don't believe in any of it.
I don't either, but that Buffalo team is all of a sudden at least in the conversation. It's been very strange, and that offense is starting to get a little bit of legs, and every once in a while you'll see this come out. And I mean, too little too late for Zay Jones, who has had a very up and down career thus far. But at least this gives them a glimmer of hope between a young wide receiver and a young quarterback.
Well, shoot, Josh Allen. This guy's 9 for 135 rushing.
Yeah, I mean, that's mind-blowing. How you have another game where you go over 100 yards as a quarterback and not someone you necessarily think as a scrambler. But
I guess I didn't.
He finds the hole and he just takes off. He's quicker than everyone thinks. You wonder how long he'll be able to get away with this. But this is a lot of yards he's accruing. I mean, this isn't just 9 carries for 135 yards. It's a unique skill set. I have no idea if they're gonna try to pull him back because Buffalo's out of it, obviously, or do you actually want the future of your team to be running around out there, with linebackers trying to light them up? I don't know, but it's really fun to actually watch them for once. And Allen Jones had a game for themselves.
Yeah, I guess I didn't expect this kind of. I didn't know Josh Allen could run like this. I just did not. I guess I didn't know enough about him. You always think of Josh Allen. You hear about the big arm, and it's crazy. This is, I guess, the most rushing yards by a quarterback since Robert Griffin back in 2012. And actually the 9th most by any quarterback since 1950.
Wow.
It's crazy to think Josh Allen.
Yeah.
But some other, here we go. How about Keenan Allen? Game's not done yet, but 12 for 124 and a touchdown. Just continues to improve. I think we could,
I was gonna say,
give ourselves some credit here, right?
I would like to. I mean, 4 games in a row, we said the touchdowns would catch up. They are now. I mean, one touchdown in the past 4 games. His yardage has always been there to be some sort of viable option. That offense is rolling. They're doing really great. Rivers is doing great. It's wonderful to see.
Yeah, we knew this would happen. At least we had a hope it would.
We predicted at least. Yeah.
After that, Jaron Brown got 3 for 67 and 2 touchdowns, which, I mean, don't know if that's sustainable. He hadn't done much previously.
Go from predicting to not predicting at all.
Odell, 3 for 35 and a touchdown, but he threw himself one 49-yard touchdown pass, his second 40-plus yard touchdown pass of the season. So saved his day against a tough Bears team, but he's up there. Chris Godwin, 5 for 101 and a touchdown. I think Chris Godwin's just going to keep getting better. I mean, he hasn't done a lot here recently, but watch him play, and every once in a while I think it's Mike Evans catching the ball. It's weird, but the numbers are too similar.
Yeah.
I'm out there.
And especially with Deshaun Jackson out there, this was very good to see that he could actually step into that spot, play the secondary role, and have a big game for him, especially with, them trying to get back to some sort of, stretch of games where you have the same QB and some sort of semblance of an offense.
Yep. How about that? Davante Adams, 93 and a touchdown, so another solid game for him. Cortland Sutton gets probably his best game, 85 yards and a touchdown. So maybe there is still something there with a good matchup next week against San Francisco. People have been playing him, and he's done nothing. So this is about the time that people probably finally decided not to play him this week. And hey, he actually did something.
He did. I really am waiting for him to have more than 4 catches. I mean, 4 catches is the most he's ever had during the season. Other than that, he's topped out at 3 a bunch of times. I'm waiting for that game where he actually gets 7 receptions, and then I know that they're trying to utilize him a little more. But, it's a good first step.
Then a lot of just other guys who did okay, I would say, in there. Jarvis Landry, as they finally stepped up a little bit, 6 for 103. He didn't do anything else other than that, but he'd been playing very poorly there for a while. So he at least finally did something. And then, Jordy Nelson came back from the dead. And 10 for 97. I thought he retired like week 7 or something.
Yeah, no kidding. A bunch of small catches, but I mean, at least I don't know. I assume we won't see him next year, but maybe. No idea with Oakland.
Then I'll just bring up Kurtis Samuel, 6 for 88 this week. Brought him up on the waiver wire last week, but he continues to score himself in standard right around 10 points a week. He's done it in 4 of the last 5 games. He's definitely usable. He's out there. And they're using him in any kind of way they can. So it's a tough one to trust, I think. I don't know how you feel about him, but he's been involved.
He has, and this is a good one. Once again, before that, he's kind of worked his way into the offense. He started really getting our attention, but he would only have 2 catches, a couple runs, whatever it may be, but he had big playability. It's really good to see 6 catches for 88. And I know it wasn't as flashy maybe as his other games have been, but at least they're trying to involve him more and more, and it takes away a little bit of that risk. So I know Craig was a little bit ahead of me on this one, but I'm coming around to Kurtis Samuel because of the way they're using him now.
Yeah, they just want to find a way to get him the ball. Then I'm going to say some guys are just being disappointed. Julio had a terrible game. Just nothing there. Tyreke Hill had his game that you kind of every once in a while expect to see. Only 1 catch for 13 yards. That's a problem. Sometimes he's done this a few times this year. He ended up with 5 points. Looks like I think it was 5 points in standard. But he's had now, let's see here, how many games on the year? He's had 3 games this year where he was only 5 points, 5.6, 5.6. Just every once in a while this happens. And then he plays Baltimore next week. I don't know if Baltimore can slow down Kansas City, so I'm not too worried about it. But you just hope that this isn't the Tyreke Hill that shows up in the playoffs for you.
Yeah, always going to be a gamble. I mean, especially when, obviously Mahomes had a huge day. So, just wasn't Tyreek's time to step up.
And Mike Evans didn't do much this week either. Only 48 yards receiving. And then, some other. Let's see here. Anybody else? There's a few. Like I say, Julio was 2 for 18. Emmanuel Sanders, 4 for 19. So, hey, that's what happens every once in a while with these receivers. You just never know. Yeah. If you used AJ coming back, before the injury, 1 catch, 7 yards. So, but that's a little different.
Yeah.
Then how about tight ends here? I guess it's no surprise. Travis Kelce, just leading the way, 12 for 168 and 2 touchdowns.
So, it wasn't Tyreke Hill's day, but it was Kelsey's day.
I mean, are you going to – I think Travis Kelce right now, with the way the other tight ends are, he has to go so much higher in the draft than everybody next year. In auction.
Oh, absolutely. He is head and shoulders above anyone else. I mean, really, it's going to be maybe a 3-person race for who I would actually pay for. And then after that, it's really going to be non-existent. No idea what's going to happen to Gronk. Kelce is by far number 1. I think it's Ertz and then Kittle. And then you start throwing a few bucks here and there on Ebron, hoping that he reproduces touchdowns. But, I mean, this guy he's the gold mine, right? He is the new Gronk, really. I mean, that's what it comes down to. In a tight end position that's very difficult to figure out, he has been the consistent one and the one that can put up big points. This guy gives you a huge advantage.
Well, the thing is, he's the new Gronk, but it's like when the tight end position is even more scarce than it was before.
I mean, very good point.
It feels like there was more players around to pick from because I never worried about getting Gronk. I know others like to get him, like to get him. I never did. I was always like, okay, I'm just going to throw whoever, at the end of the bet, find some guy on the waiver wire and use him. No big deal. He'll be fine. There's not those players right now. And I mean, Kelce, 26.8. Jared Cook was the second guy who had 16. He's up and down. After that, it was Austin Hooper, who's kind of become a guy who you might think is going to do something. Then it was Anthony Ferkser. I've never heard of this guy. For Tennessee, never heard of him once. He's caught a couple balls the last few games. Maybe he should have, but he's. I mean, didn't know who he was whatsoever. Then 5th place was Travis Kelce's backup, Demetrius Harris, because he caught a touchdown. Then Jordan Thomas. Man, it's just ugly.
It's so ugly, and it only got worse today as well.
In Gronk, 3 for 26,
right? And Olsen, done for the year. What, he ruptured his plantar or whatever it was. So
yeah,
I mean, it was for a tight end situation. It did only get worse after today. Like the waters are so muddy. You're taking people out of the equation. If you have Kelce, you feel really good. But man, for anyone that doesn't have one of those top 3, it is just you just have to feel it out. You have to have like a gut feeling about who's going to catch a touchdown, because that's really all it comes down to. If you're looking at the top 10, it doesn't matter if you get 1 catch or 10. Whoever catches a touchdown is going to be a top 10 guy.
Yep. And Njoku, 3 for 8. Three catches for 8 yards after. Yeah. Thought maybe he's one of those you can't trust him either, like for anything. You can't. Oh, I'm watching the Pittsburgh Chargers here. I think there's going to be a flag on this, maybe an offsides. They just blocked the field goal attempt, and the Chargers are about to win this thing. Pittsburgh blocked it, but I think it's going to be an offsides. Oh, that's too bad. That was kind of exciting. I was hoping for some more fantasy points there going to overtime, but not going to happen. But all right, quarterback-wise, Pat Mahomes leads the way. No surprise there, right?
Yeah.
295 and 4 touchdowns. Just if he doesn't throw for 4 touchdowns, it's kind of a disappointment, I would say. Especially now that playoffs are hitting. He's got you this far. There are a lot of teams in the playoffs probably with Pat Mahomes as their quarterback.
Oh, yeah. And this was the matchup you wanted to see, right? Oakland, you thought there was no way that he could, have a down game. This would be the funny one if he actually did. But he gets this out of the way. I mean, he does have Baltimore, Chargers, and Seattle. Obviously, Baltimore the best one. But, I mean, this guy is a plug and play, right? You don't worry about matchup anymore. You just assume he's going to do well.
Yeah, okay, Baltimore, maybe there's some worry sometimes, but not really, right? I mean, how can you... Pat Mahomes, he's going to be fine. This whole offense is too good. I think they overcome any defense that you can throw at him pretty much at this point. So, I'm not worrying. How about the second guy here, Russell Wilson? Only 11 for 17, 185 yards, but threw 4 touchdowns. That's not a sustainable number, but he's been very, very good.
I say that it's not sustainable, but at the same time, he is finding a way to get it done. You look at what he's been able to do since week 5, and I'm really, really impressed. I still don't know who he's throwing to. Baldwin did have a touchdown, but he only had a couple catches, and he is just finding a way to get it done week in and week out. it was San Fran, and he only threw for 185 yards, but, the week before that, 339 with 2. So however the game goes, he's finding a way to get it done. Pure and simple.
Then Josh Allen, like we talked about, is third for the week. Derek Carr, all of a sudden, appears on the list, number 4. But when he plays Pittsburgh next week, Pittsburgh isn't the greatest against, passing teams. I still would not trust Derek Carr if you're in the playoffs. Phillip Rivers had a solid game. Jameis, he's been good. 3 weeks in a row or 2 weeks in a row starting in that other game where he filled in. He's been very good, and he gets to play against New Orleans next week. I will throw Jameis in my lineup and not worry about it. I'm going to trust him. He has my trust, but this is where he blows it, right? This is the spot where it goes away.
Yeah, well, somehow Fitzpatrick will get this start because Winston will do something stupid.
After that, Nick Mullins finds his way with 414 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's still, though, he's not a guy you're going to put in your lineup. Mariota, Roethlisberger, Tannehill are up there. And then you got some disappointments for the week, I guess. Guys under 20 points. Cam Newton went under 20 because of 4 picks. Deshaun Watson didn't do a lot. His team gets the win, so it doesn't really matter. Aaron Rodgers, 17.3.
Okay, man. Seriously, though, I know we've talked about this, and we were going to start other people in front of him. We weren't ready to go to the extreme. But, at this point, you have to start someone for the playoffs next week. He's going against Atlanta. He's going to have a new coach.
I think I play him.
You can't get away from it.
No, I can't. Not with the matchup. Not with the matchup and the new coach thing. I feel like a lot of times it just works out the week 1. And they're going to definitely try to open up the offense and see what, I feel pretty decent. Okay. But if he doesn't put together a big number next week, he is on my bench week 15. If you somehow pull it off next week with Aaron Rodgers, he'd be on my bench week 15. The problem is there's a lot of people that aren't in the playoffs if you have Aaron Rodgers at quarterback.
Oh, very true.
Because you paid more for him than most, and he just hasn't performed.
All right. Well, same question for the guy right underneath him, Tom Brady. We've been even lower on Tom Brady. Is this a guy you get away from or no? He has Miami.
I actually would get away from him.
Okay, yeah.
Next week.
Once again, a lackluster performance. Really, he's had one decent game in the past 5. It is not a good look. You're going to be away at Miami for your playoff hopes. Very difficult to trust him.
Well, then there's a bunch of other guys down here. Jared Goff, only 10.1 against the Lions. I think a lot of it, they ran the ball. They didn't have to do much passing. But he plays at Chicago next week. So, man, what are you doing with Jared Goff next week?
Oh,
are you playing
that
him?
Is a very good question. I think I am. I think Chicago is going to be more difficult to run against. That's tough to say with Gurley. But I think that Goff will have to throw a little more. And, it's not that he did that poor. He did have a fumble, whatever, and 1 interception. But he didn't do poor against Detroit, like you said. He just didn't need to throw a whole lot. And this is his, second lowest game. The 5 weeks before that, he's been a stud. I think this is he'll be a bounce back game. I don't really worry about him all that much.
And Kirk Cousins only scored 10 points out of 32 of 44 and 201. 1 touchdown, 2 picks against New England. He's done this a few times too. He did this week 9 against Detroit. He did it week 3 against Buffalo. I don't know if I worry too much about him against Seattle next week, but this is definitely in the realm of possibility for him. I think I'd start him. And then let's say Matt Ryan here. This is why you worry a little bit about Baltimore's defense with, because he 9.6 for Matt Ryan against Baltimore. Not much there, but I feel okay if I'm a Ryan owner against Green Bay next week.
Yeah, and you should.
Then Andrew Luck 9.5. Man, a lot of these Jacksonville's defense all of a sudden became Jacksonville's defense of last year, real quick. Don't know why or how that happened, but they did. 6-0 game.
Yeah, and every time. This was a very strange week for quarterbacks, as we've just listed out 5 different guys that are usually in the top 10 that really had very poor performances. But Luck went from scoring at least 3 touchdowns a game since week 4 and to a crashing halt where he didn't get one. And I did not see this coming. It's kind of like when you throw your complete support behind someone and then they just hit a brick wall. That's what happened for Andrew Luck today.
Yeah, it just completely fell off the map there. But again, I think that's just Baltimore. Jacksonville's defense is really good, and they just showed up finally. So I feel okay about Luck next week. But all right, I think that's going to do it. We'll be back tomorrow. We got some waiver wire pickups. It might be a short show. Not a lot out there, is there, for next week for waiver wire? We'll go over that tomorrow. Talk to you guys then.